There is something magical that happens when people find recovery and are happy that they found recovery. There's a light in their eyes, there's enthusiasm, and our guest today is a prime example of that. So welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. I'm your host, Randall Carlisle. Our co-host, Nicole Slack. Hi.
Hello.
Glad you made it.
Barely.
She was a little late for the podcast.
Was.
A little. And our guest is Carrie Pavlica.
Hello.
Hi, Carrie. Was my description pretty good about you? The thing I've noticed is that you always seem to be up, you always have a lot of enthusiasm, and you seem to love recovery.
I absolutely do love recovery. It's the best part of my life.
It's probably why you're alive right now, right?
Yes, it is. If it wasn't for me going to jail, I wouldn't be sitting here with you now. That's when my recovery journey started.
You hear people sometimes say that, and of course, people who don't understand addiction or anything else would think going to jail was the best part of your life or, to begin recovery.
A lot of people think going to jail is the most horrible thing ever, but for me, it was where I finally felt safe. For me, it was a place that I could turn my life around because I was scared to quit. I didn't think that I could quit. And so when I was in there, it was an opportunity for me to prove to myself that I could.
Before the podcast, we were talking about the beginnings of your using and then addiction. Can we go through some of that? I found that pretty interesting.
Sure. I started out in addiction at like 13 years old of using Coke and alcohol. And my dad was the one that gave it to me. He was like a party parrot. And
let me stop you there because I have trouble understanding that. What did he say? Carrie, it'd be fun to get high, try this, or what?
One time he had gotten mad at me for doing some things that I did, and he was in rock and roll my whole entire life. He was a guitar player, so I was around drugs and rock and roll, you know what I mean, and drinking. So he would allow me to drink when he'd have parties, or I was drug around from place to place as a child, from town to town, because my mom was a sound technician and my dad was a guitar player. So I was around it my whole entire life. So when I was 13, he started letting me do it. And he said he'd rather me do it with him than be out there doing it somewhere else. So I just had stints. Like it was something that I could just drop. So I didn't understand addiction. I did it for a while, for maybe like a year, and then I would stop. I was on my own since 13. I moved out of the house at 13 years old and got a fake ID and started working. And so I just grew up at a real early age. And so, I don't know, at 14 years old, I pretty much quit using cocaine, but I was still drinking every now and then. And so when I had gotten pregnant with my son, I was like, when I turn 21, I'm going to the bars because I never had a life, you know what I mean? And I wanted this party life. And when I was 20, I'd gotten pregnant. So when I was 21, all that stopped. I was going to be a mom. So I was like the most honest person you ever met, the most trustworthy, honest person that wanted to be the best mom I could be. I did everything perfect in my pregnancy, you know what I mean? But I wanted to be married to my son's dad, and he didn't want to marry me. And I just wanted that one time only. I didn't want my son to have step-parents because my step-parents were bad my whole entire life, you know what I mean? And so I started again with my dad, drinking and doing cocaine. And I felt 10 foot tall and bulletproof, like nothing mattered. I didn't care what anyone said. I was going to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, And so I just battled back and forth with stuff like that, just like using recreationally. And then later on in life, I started using Oxycontins and oxycodones. And I had gotten sick one day and I thought I had the flu. And I was like, I got the flu, I can't do anything. And my best friend at the time is like, well, you have withdrawals. And I didn't understand what a withdrawal was. I didn't know. And so when I got another pill, I felt good. And that's when the road to destruction hit. I just got super hooked and sold everything we owned for the addiction.
And you were a mom at the time?
So I was also a foster parent for 6 years when I was clean, and I had adopted a daughter, but I'd went on a run. And so I was on the run 10 years. My kids didn't have any kind of an education, so I held on to that I was thinking I was being a good parent because I'd given my kids everything that they wanted, but my relationships were toxic and they had to be around fighting all the time and always scared that I'd be taken away. So they didn't get to live a very good life, you know what I mean? And all this time I thought I was being that good parent, but my son had said, Mom, all I wanted was a mom,
And explain to people, we talk about this a lot in my family support group that I facilitate, that when you're in the throes of addiction, you are thinking thoughts that the average person who is not in addiction can't understand. You thought you were being a good mom, but you weren't.
Yeah, it was hard to handle, to realize that everything I thought I was doing right was pretty much doing wrong.
Right.
And I thought, well, I'm doing good. I'm keeping them safe, but through all those things that I put them through, of all the fighting and the addictions, and my son had became an addict as well. So then I turned into my dad, you know what I mean, being a party mom with my son and even with my husband's, and it felt like that was the only family time we had is when we were using together. And I know this sounds sad, but I looked forward to the times that we were using because that was the only time we ever talked to each other. You know what I mean? Is when we were using. My son was going to be a professional skateboarder. He had sponsors, and he had gotten hurt. And when he did, he got pills. And the doctor gave him more and more pills. And he recovered really quick from the first injury, and then he had gotten another one. And that took a long time to heal. And so he got more pills, and the next thing you know, I was his biggest enabler. When he ran out of the pills, he would tell me that he didn't feel good, and I would get him. And so I was on the pills. My ex-husband was on the pills, and my son was all on the pills. That's how the addiction started, as a family addiction, and we all got hooked on pills.
The family that uses together stays together? So, gosh.
Well, thanks.
I can see what you were going through, because everything when you guys were all high and using seemed to be sort of idyllic at the time.
It seemed to be the normal because that's what I grew up doing, and it just felt like that was the normal thing to do. You know what I mean? Now looking back on it and everything that I put them through, I can't do anything different, but we have a sober life together. We're building a sober life. And, my son and I went bowling, and he was like, Mom, we can't have fun being sober, and to build a life. It's never too late to be a good parent, because I catastrophized it the whole entire time as, oh my God, I'm such a bad mom. Look what I put him through, you know what I mean? And I just hated myself. It took a long time to love myself, and my therapist had said it's never too late to be a good mom. You can be that positive role model you want to be. You just have to work on you. You got to want to do it for yourself.
You can relate to that, Nicole.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking, you're right. It's not too late. No, I work every day to try to earn my daughter's respect back and all of that. So it's really nice to hear. Even though I'm going through it and trying to be a good mom, it's really nice to hear. I'm really happy you said that.
So you go through all this crap for how long? 10 years of total addiction?
Yes.
And you said jail saved you. Describe that.
I was just on a path of destruction. I had lost my way. I lost my way with God. I lost my way with my family. I lied so much to my mom and put my mom through the ringer. And I got to where I didn't even talk to my mom for a long time, and abusive relationships. And my son's girlfriend was abusive, and I went through that. And I was right in the middle of their relationship, which pretty much ruined it for them as well as for anything, because my son and I, we were like the tag team of partners, and it caused a lot of problems. And so I ended up getting in trouble and went to jail. I always wanted to quit, but I was super scared that I couldn't do it, and I would just make excuses on, oh, well, if I don't want to get on something else, I would just do what I'm doing. You know what I mean? It just became a part of my life. So when I went to jail, 3 days after I was there, I tried to commit suicide. And of course, I'm sitting here, so that didn't work. And I called my mom, and she answered the phone. And I was crying. And I was like, what am I going to do? She's like, well, not what you're doing, You need to have faith and you need to pray. So I took her advice, and I found my way back to my higher power. And I just started seeing these positive things, you know what I mean? Like, I'm safe, and I would just remind myself, okay, you're safe in here. You don't have to go through this anymore. You did it, you know what I mean? You're doing it every day. It wasn't really that hard because I was addicted to meth, alcohol, and heroin. So, like, the first 5 days, it was really rough, you know what I mean? So that's why I was like, I can't do it.
You were sick.
But the withdrawals stopped after like 5 days from the heroin, but the alcohol, I shook for like 2 months. Like, I didn't even want to clean the cell. I just was shaking so bad, and I felt like, is this really real? Is this real? Am I really in jail? Is this really happening? Like, I felt like I shook from the inside out, and like nothing seemed real. It took like a long time before I felt like, okay, this is reality. I'm okay. When I just stopped shaking one day, it was like, oh my gosh, I did it.
I felt like it wasn't my body with my shakes.
Yeah.
Like, it took 3 months for mine to go up. I can remember my daughter used to always say she loved my handwriting, and it took 3 or 4 months for me to recognize my own handwriting. Like, the shaking is so... Did you shake?
Yeah, it did. I had trouble. When I was in IOP, they gave us, was it Librium?
Lithium?
They gave us something. Anyway, you had to sign every time you'd line up to get the pills. And I remember, it's like,
Yeah.
And
It's wild. But
It is.
for me, it was out of body. I was like, it does not feel like I'm me, like trying to shower or put your clothes on and you're shaking so hard. That's such a good description because, yeah, those 3-4 months for me were like, I don't feel like this is my body.
And it's internal. It's not just external. It's like you're feeling ill at ease. You're breathing weird. You feel like you can feel your heartbeat. It's just a totally uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, it is.
So you got it out is what you did in jail, right? You got done with your dope sickness from the heroin. The meth goes away pretty quick. And then from the alcohol, it was a couple of months. All of a sudden, what do you do next?
So I started feeling better, and I was talking to my attorney, and he had faith in me, you know what I mean? He's like, you need to do something in here. If you want to turn your life around, you need to do it. This is the place you need to do it. You're feeling better. You need to get a job. You need to be a trustee. And I was like, hearing about the CATS program, and I was like, I want to do the CATS program. I want to try something different, and I asked the judge when I went to court if he would please get it court ordered so I could get there because I was in medium security, so I was not pointing down. My points were high, and you have to be in minimum to go to CATS. So I stayed 3 or 4 months in medium, and I'd got it court ordered, so I used my override. You get one override to point down. So I used that to point down to get into the CATS program. I was a trustee in medium, so I started doing that. And then that's when I started turning my behaviors around because I was like the most negative person you would ever meet. I would fly off the handle. I would say things that I didn't mean, and then I'd regret them. Because my son had told me, Mom, some things you say can never be forgotten. They can be forgiven, but they can't be forgotten. And it hurt my feelings, you know what I mean? Like all these things that I said to my mom and to my son and to everybody that I loved, all these horrible things that I asked for forgiveness for, but things that they'll never forget. I wanted to change that because no matter what the situation was, we were screwed. You know what I mean? Like, I was never positive about anything. It was constant negativity and arguing all the time. Nothing was ever positive.
And add your feisty nature to that, it'd be like, she's pretty hard to deal with.
Yeah, definitely was, you know. So I was like, I need to change these behaviors. So when I went there, you know, I had this bad attitude and this impulsiveness. And so I learned DBT skills like the stop method. I used the stop method so many times a day, you know, to...
Describe that for people.
So for me, it's stop. As soon as you want to act out, to stop. Just the S part is how I had to practice it. To stop, take a breath, and like, I'm not a deep breathing type of person, so when I take a breath, I'm like, and that just with the deep breathe in and then exhaling it, because I can feel it, like, you can just feel like it relieves stress as you're letting it out. You know what I mean? So by the time I stop and I take the breath and think about it, then I observe the situation. Who's around? You know, is this something that I really want to say? What is going to be the outcome of this? And then by the time you do all that, you process it, and it's like, okay, there we go. I stopped myself from being impulsive. And that's what really worked. It took some practice of just starting with the stop part and asking my peers for help. And when they would see me get mad or go to say something, they're like, Carrie, stop, you know? And it's really true. You see yourself best in the eyes of a peer, because when you're not realizing you're doing something, when someone brings it to my attention that I'm doing it, I'm like, no, I'm not. You know what I mean? I don't do that. You know, and I get upset, but I see myself doing it after I'm told that, and I'm like, whoa, hang on, I really do that. So now I'm receptive to feedback, you know? And if it's something that I'm doing, I take a step back and take a look at it, and then I can correct it. I can work on it.
So you succeed wildly in the CATS program. And by the way, if you don't know what that is, it's a treatment program that runs 3 months in the Salt Lake County Jail, and it's administered by Odyssey personnel. So you get out. What happens next?
So I do the CATS program. I stayed 2 years in jail. I'm a CATS graduate. And then so I just was a trustee the whole time. And I had utilized all my time with positivity. And I had over 100 certificates on the tablet.
Wow.
Where I learned life skills, job skills, all kinds of every skill you could possibly think of. I was on that tablet making use of my time and working on things and doing every program they had. Anything they had, I was there. You know, I wanted to do everything I could to get all the knowledge I could to stay sober. And so I wrote the judge a letter, and I got to read it. And I asked him, please let me go to Odyssey, because I was facing prison. And he was like, what? You know, you want to go to Odyssey? I was like, yeah. I heard all the horror stories in jail, you know, because people go there and they come back and you get to hear all about it. And I was like, nothing in life is easy. So I want to go to Odyssey, and I want to prove it can be done. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to rock that program. And he's like, when you mess up, then you're going on 2 consecutive terms.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I was like, send it. I don't care what kind of terms you're giving me. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to rock that program. He's like, Carrie, you're going to need to prove it to me. I was like, okay, I will, you know? And so they gave me 2 consecutive terms. And no tolerance, AP&P. I wasn't allowed to see my son because we were co-defendants. And my attorney, he believed in me. He's like, Carrie, when you're 30 days away from graduating the program, give me a call and we'll go talk to the judge. Well, I didn't even have to go. I rocked the program so good, you know what I mean, that he had talked to the judge, and it was like this greatest thing. The day that I graduated the program was the day I got the phone call from my attorney saying, the judge lifted the order, you can live with your son. And it was like the greatest day of my life. Here I was, a graduate of Odyssey. It was like such an honor that I rocked it. You know what I mean? I went in there and did it. And it was the most amazing experience because the CATS was like all these skills, DBT skills and ACT skills and all these coping skills and stuff. And then when I got to Odyssey, I got to change these behaviors because it's behavioral modification, you know? So I just had all this stuff in a 2-year foundation in jail. So thankfully I had that. And then I just
I was
started.
going to ask if it prepared you for the house.
Yes, I felt like it did. It was still kind of overwhelming, you know, I can adapt easily to situations. So you know what I mean? But when I went from jail to there, I was like, oh my gosh. I went for a walk and I was like, oh. It was weird to be out here in the world, you know what I mean? And then I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I always wanted a big family my whole life, which is something I never had. And now I do. Now I have a huge family. I have my Odyssey family, and it's true. You're part of a family. And it was just the best feeling ever. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be the house supervisor. I want to make a difference. You know what I mean? Like I was like the most positive role model, you know what I mean? And I wanted to be that person, and I became it. And it was the best thing ever. I was an honor, you know, like I'm your house supervisor. And it was just the best experience ever.
And then you get out and you take another positive step, right?
So I get out to sober living, and it took me a while to get a job. You know, the struggle gets real when you're out there. You make your own decisions.
Sure.
You have to start cooking for yourself. You don't realize how easy you have it in the house. But I had the skills. I learned the skills to be able to overcome adversity. You know what I mean? To take the struggles and to be able to deal with it, which was a great thing. I was a Voyager, so I got to go back to the house and get support. And it was just great when you get out there and you are able to make your own decisions and they're the right decisions. It feels good. And you just get built up more and more of, hey, I can do this, and I don't have to run to alcohol or drugs. I can handle this. Like, I got this. And they had done a walk the walk, and I talked to Michael. He's the program manager, and he was like, Carrie, you know, you're the only one that didn't have a contract, and I would love to hire you one day.
Explain what a walk the walk is.
A walk the walk is when they go through the house and everybody takes accountability for the things that they have done in the house, and like gets a clean slate. And if you have any contracts with anybody or you know anything, you come clean on it. And he was like, you're like the only person that didn't have any contracts. My name didn't come up, you know? And it felt really good because I ran a clean program. Like, it was life or death for me. So I took it really serious. I learned how to set boundaries, you know? And it was great. It was a great experience. And when he said he'd hire me, I took it to heart, you know? And he's like, when you move out of sober living, let me know. I moved out of sober living, and I gave him a call, and I was like, hey, what about that job, you know? And he's like, come on in. And now I work for Odyssey, and I love my job. It's like the greatest job in the world. I can't wait to get there. I get there like an hour early every single day, and they're like, what are you doing here? I was like, the hardest part of my job is going home. Like, I love it. It's the greatest experience ever, and I couldn't be more happy. Like,
That must rub off on the clients that you work with, too.
yeah, they're always
As
like,
opposed to somebody saying, I feel like crap and I didn't want to be here today, you know, that kind of stuff. But you're positive all the time.
yeah, I love it. I can't wait to get there, and it shows, you know, when you do something you love, it shows. And I'm always positive, and the clients can tell, like, if I have a look on my face, they're like, what's wrong? You know, they know me really good. So, yeah, it's amazing. And it's amazing that I get to be that positive support that I had while I was in the house. Now I get to be on the other side, and I get to be the positive support too, you know, even though I was positive support because it's a peer-ran TC community. So, you know what I mean? I was still that positive role model, but now I could be on the other side and be staff and still be the positive role model and really make a difference. And I love it.
And tell us the good news about you and your son.
So my son and I, we're sober. We live together, and we are building a sober relationship together now. It's amazing that I can be the positive role model he looks up to. You know what I mean? And he's positive for me as well. Like, and it's an awesome experience that we can go do things sober. We get along. We don't argue anymore. And he's a graduate as well of the program. So he was in the program and I was in the program. So we were both in the program. And it's just amazing. Like, he did it. He didn't think that he could, and he was able to do it. He's got a great job where he's excelling at his job and doing so good. And it's just an awesome experience to build a sober life together now.
What about the claim you made? This is something that I dealt with, and I don't know if you did, Nicole, about the fact, can I have fun sober? Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
I think that's a question. Look, a lot of people, finding recovery, ask themselves, So
Yeah, we went bowling and we had such a great time. We were taking pictures and sending them to my mom, and he was like, Mom, we can have fun sober. And it was like this light. Whoa, you know what I mean? Like, we can do fun things. You know what I mean? I got goosebumps down my legs. We don't have to be drunk or high to have fun. Like, we can actually do things that are fun sober. And it's just an amazing experience to be able to experience fun things sober and to have that laugh, to have that internal laugh, that good, genuine laughter that you don't have when you're in your addiction, you know what I mean? Where we can just enjoy the little things and have a great time. And it is possible. You can 100% have fun sober.
did you deal with that?
Yeah, Super Bowls were the first Super Bowl sober. I was like, how do you have fun watching a Super Bowl without alcohol? Because we would just start while sober. How long is the last note of the national anthem? And you drink based on the seconds. And how many times are they going to say the word, Peyton during Eli Manning playing? And
Right.
we would just have all these little things that we would do. So the first,
drink.
And so I was like, how do you watch the Super Bowl when there's no fun to it? And I've discovered I love football in that time. I do love it. I watch football all the time now.
Sober.
I don't care who's playing. I just enjoy the games. I used to be a Colts fan. Now I'm every team. I have just found joy in the sport, which I think is wild to say because I think that's everyone else's experience, but it wasn't mine. And yeah, it's been fun. But you're CPSS certified too,
Yes.
which I think you have not hit on, which is amazing.
Yes, I am a certified peer support specialist and full-time. And it's just an amazing experience. I love it.
You're a happy person now,
Yes, I'm very happy.
naturally.
Yeah.
Compare that to what seemed to be happy when you were high.
It's no comparison because I had thought that I was just numbing all the stuff and it was going away. But when I became sober, it was all still there. And there's this huge wall that was built up that I had to knock down, So there's no comparison. There was no happiness there, even though I thought I might be, but I was not,
So, do you have to work at staying sober now, or is it just part of your life?
You work at it every day because you're going to have struggles and you're going to have bad days. It's just how you deal with those things. And I just remind myself, I like to play the tape forward. Okay, I have this situation, and if I was to go out and use or drink, what would be the outcome? And played the tape forward on that, and the outcome is my life is amazing, and I don't want to go back to that again. You know what I mean? I get triggered. I have triggers here and there, but learning how to deal with the triggers and being transparent about it and talking about it, you get through it.
I told you at the beginning of the podcast, you see the light in her eyes and the enthusiasm about recovery. So I appreciate you sharing everything. And if anybody could inspire somebody to seek recovery, you would be it.
Thank you so much.
Agree? So
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Nicole. I found this inspiring.
I did too.
And I hope you did as well. So thank you for watching or listening to another edition of Odyssey House Journals.